Thank you.
Right.
Are you suggesting that someone's trying to make a real-life sequel?
Stab 2? Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
2 in the box!
Ready to go.
We be fast and
They be slow.
Wow. A second Super Saiyan? Second in order, perhaps, but by no means in stature. Your fight is with me now.
I'll have my revenge, and Deathstalker too.
Man, I can't fucking believe this. Another basement, another elevator. How could the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
Oh, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
All right, what's going on, everyone? It's your host, Chris, at Inside the Sequel. You know what this podcast is. It's the ultimate, goated destination for sequel movies to be housed and praised. But today's episode, it might break that barrier. I'm not quite sure because today's episode is on the 2018 sequel, found footage sequel, Hell House 2.
This hotel has a long history of unexplained events being caught on camera.
Why do they guard it so much if they're saying there's nothing wrong with it?
I don't believe in ghost stories, but I don't want to take any chances with you guys. We're going to be in and out in an hour, tops.
These poor individuals who have gone missing were amateur ghost hunters, not trained professional investigators.
Miss Fox, you've been missing for 5 days now. Can you tell us anything you remember of how you wound up walking along on the side of the road tonight? Can you tell us anything about where you've been since last Sunday? Miss Fox.
And for this movie, I thought it'd be really great to bring in the only person I know on this planet that's mentioned watching this movie, and I'm excited about it because the way he described it already got me wanting to watch it. And then when I realized it was a trilogy, I was like, fucking goated, let's go. And that is from one of the 3 main members of the Terror Table. It's making his 3rd appearance on Inside the Sequel, so bless his soul. He probably has...
I'm turning this into a trilogy.
There you go. He's coming back. If you can tell from his voice, that is Anthony Buzi, aka Buzi, aka Simpsons meme stan, aka meme lord of IG and Night of the Living Deadlift. How many more titles you got?
I'm not worthy. Wow, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of those you just made up, but I mean, I'll take them.
Yeah, I like to build my boys up, before they have to.
I appreciate just how much love you throw down for your boys all the time. Like, you ride or die for like all your homies, and I really appreciate that. That is not something that all your homies do, and more homies should be encouraging their homies. I
just have a deep and profound appreciation and love for my fellow man. Like, the boys need to get built up from time to time because we tear ourselves down, and now we're in that process of building each other back up.
It's always like the girls being like, "You go, sis." It's like, I want to tell my bros, like, "You go, bro."
Yeah, my favorite battle cry is "Get 'em, sis." When I hear that, I'm like, "Uh-oh, shit's about to be laid." But no, Buzi, thanks for coming back, man.
Thank you for asking me. I don't know why you keep asking me to come back. I don't feel like I'm a great guest, but I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like, you've been on this is your 3rd one. Mitch has been on here, and Kyle is still yet to make his appearance.
Kyle, look, it's kind of like, what would I describe it? It's like an albino anything when like Kyle goes on something because it's so rare. He just did one like a little while ago, and I think that's the first podcast he's done since he joined the Terror Table. So it's like, okay. So maybe now that the seal's broken, you can get in on that because he has a lot of weird things to say too.
I know, and that he's like an enigma for me. Whenever I hear him on the podcast, and it's like, hey, it's Mitch and Kyle. I'm like, where's Booze? But then there's like, oh, just Mitch and Kyle. It's like, all right, let's see what Kyle is gonna do. And then he always like cracks me up with his subtle humor, where Mitch and him in the latest episode with Lindsay, where they talked about Lake Munungo,
Like Mungo, yeah.
Mungo. I haven't seen it clearly.
You just adding extra stuff to that one.
And they're talking about how Running Scared is blown up Twitter, the Paul Walker film, which to me is kind of like, okay, we're just trying to be nuanced here with this. But anyway, Kyle's like, oh yeah, I love the movie. But he's like, actually, no opinion. I don't want to be associated with whatever's going on with film Twitter. And I was like, you know what? I fucking respect that energy, just like taking the neutral ground, not taking any stance.
Isn't it it's kind of sad in a way that usually film Twitter is so negative that he just wants to make sure he has no part of it. But at the same time, like everybody from an outside looks at that stuff. Like I think film Twitter is kind of hilarious.
It's like film Twitter is like a comfort blanket for me, regardless if it's positive or negative energy. I just want to wrap it around me and just be involved with it.
I find there's an endless cycle of drama that comes with it, but it's all the most arbitrary. It's like people get mad that other people have opinions, so then they'll say their opinions, and then if someone like doesn't agree with them in the comments, then a bunch of other people give their it's very weird because there's no like right answer. It's not like mathematical that you can say like yes or no to a thing. It's all just based on people's opinions, but they get so like pitchfork and like torched about it.
Yeah, like that's why I fucking hate people who are like, my favorite movies are comic book movies. Like, you only say that to be popular. And then you're like, I love Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Like, you're just doing it to get clout. It's like, it's like that's how people see
those are good choices.
Like, I like how it's like, say that out loud. Somebody who likes those movies and you think they're crazy and acting cool about that. It's like, look yourself in the mirror. And then the other side is like, oh, they only love, 90s Fincher movies. Yeah. And they love like watching anything on the Criterion. It's like, so, toxic on both sides. And I just like, and
for the like the quote unquote like outcast ones that are like in the Criterion stuff, they get mad at like each other. It's like trying to find the smallest like burrow of nicheness to be like, no, I'm more niche than you are.
That's why I'm like, people are always like, oh, like with the rise of TikTok, and I'm on TikTok, mind you, and there's some.
It's hard not to. Like, I have 2 accounts. Like, I'm on TikTok.
Like, one of them's a thirst follow account, and then the other one is just film thirst following, and
just add the word in front, like a little bit of film, still thirst following.
And honestly, with the film thirst ones, it's all Criterion-ish and like horror bro stuff, and I'm like, and I'm just like thinking, oh man, like if this was film Twitter, like comments like in there, like these people would like be taking everything down.
Oh, 100%. I also think it's where was I going? Sorry.
We're just ranting and roasting people, but I'm also happy that bullying is back. You can just look at film Twitter to see that, and it's great.
Yeah, everybody talks about how like you have to stand up to bullying, but then if once again if someone says that like John Wick 2 sucks, then you yell at them and call them an incel. I don't know. I don't understand it. Oh, okay, sorry. I do remember what I was thinking about before. You can just delete that dead air before. It's hard to trust somebody if they tell you their favorite film came out within like the last 5 years. It's like you haven't sat on this at all. It's a weird decision to make. I can't look back at anything in the last 5 years and be like, oh, I'm gonna base my personality around this, or whatever.
Fuck, that's deep, bro.
Just much love between a couple of homies here having a deep conversation.
I'm just saying that film hasn't been the same since COVID for me. I haven't been to a theater since Kong vs. Godzilla, and even then I love the movie so much. It felt weird being back in the theater and shit. So,
and even that was a while. Like, we're just getting to a point now, I think it was like last week, where we don't have to wear masks in public here.
Yeah.
So just the idea of going to a theater, I don't remember the last thing I went to see in theater. It's been forever.
And I feel weird because it's like I want to watch new movies and talk about them with friends and stuff, but I'm more interested in like watching older movies at home and then talking about it on like Zoom or Skype with my Twitter friends.
Dude,
I prefer doing that more.
I feel that deeply, and I think that with I got bored of like constant new things coming out that are all part of kind of the same universes. So I totally get where you're coming from. Is that obviously, I'm not like a superhero guy, and I'm not big into like those universes, which is totally fine. Like whatever, if people like that. but I do get a lot more out of going on all these different sites and finding kind of those more obscure things and being like, hey, do you want to talk about Stephen King's The Night Flyer? It's like,
oh no,
if you want to go and talk about that would be great. I don't want to talk about Iron Man.
Next time I'm ever on the terror table, I'm having to I have Post-it notes, and it's like one of them's like never bring up Stephen King movies, because I feel like that's just a whole episode in its own, and I don't want it to ruin mine.
We all have opinions about it and then change our opinions all the time. So if you start talking about it, we'll have to adapt to whatever new opinion we have at that point.
I'm really in a phase right now where I want to talk only with people about horror or action movies that star an ex or current WWE wrestler. My first sequel movie I want to talk about is See No Evil 2 with Kane, and then 13 Rounds, the sequel to 12 Rounds with Randy Orton.
Randall Keith Orton. Yeah, that's.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Those movies, there's been so many rounds, and they all have these different wrestlers, and I don't understand if they're supposed to be part of the same agents. Is it like, have you seen any of these?
I've seen 12 Rounds.
Okay, is
with,
it like
with John Cena?
Right, and I'm assuming he survives at the end. So,
yeah.
But is he part of an agency, or is it just like
he's like a cop who's it's basically like a masochist, serial Riddler type character. It makes him go through these. It's kind of like Seven in a way though too, where it's he's making him go through these 12 rounds of a sick game and having to survive.
Oh,
yeah,
that's what the 12. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know any. I thought it was just talking about that someone had a gun that had 12 rounds, and that was the deal with that. So apparently,
I kind of wish that John Cena changed his finisher from the Attitude Adjustment to 12 rounds, and then he just does it once in a match, and then does it a second, and then when he's finally at a pay-per-view, he's we're going to the 12th round, and he's gonna hit another.
They have to build. Yeah, they build up to that.
And I have Peacock now, and all I watch is the WWE Network, like I did when I was a kid, and now I'm 25 doing that.
It's really nice to see everybody get back into wrestling, because honestly, it's so good now. Wrestling is so good, and it's so entertaining.
Are you emo shaming? Basically, everyone's oh, I was always emo. I never left the scene, and now everyone's going to wrestling. I never left the ring.
I obviously I've even admitted before there was a large portion of time where I quit watching wrestling just because it wasn't cool anymore, right? And it was just oh, don't you don't want to be that guy. And,
yeah.
I'm so into it again that it's just man, live your life. Just enjoy wrestling. We only have so many years of Seth Rollins being at the top of his game. We gotta, and how many years are we gonna have, where with all these wrestlers that keep getting released? I want to see Aleister Black back, and
when CM Punk retired, that was the day wrestling died for me, unfortunately.
That's really deep. That's when Bret Hart retired for me. That one hurt.
Yeah. Both guys screwed over by the company.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, as an American, does Bret Hart mean anything to you guys?
Fuck, dude, the Hitman is one of my favorite legends. No cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a theme. If I was one of those kids getting those fucking shades, also those shades are coming back. The Bret Hart handing them out to kids shades.
I think the leotard is coming back too.
Just in time. I just want to dress like a wrestler, even though I've never stepped. Well, I have stepped. Okay, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always kind of thinking these super masculine and buff dudes are wearing the tightest clothes and underwear and leather boots and stuff, and it's kind of like that bar scene in Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And it's nobody all the traditional people who follow the WWE wrestling who would be against those type of lifestyles are all about it, and they're yeah, get your hands in between his legs and lifting up your head and stuff like that, lock him into submission and stuff, and it's it's kind of funny to hear him talk like that, but also it's man, if I see a sharpshooter on a guy, I'm let's go.
And it's the same thing as you can tell when you see a bad one. I've seen a bad Texas Cloverleaf before, and I'm just what are you doing? Perry Saturn would be really upset if he saw this.
We need to have a wrestling episode where just you and me, or if you know any other wrestling state. Nathan Jones is actually a big wrestling guy too.
The Beast of Bugger Road.
YouTuber, not related to the wrestler Nathan Jones.
Okay, I'm sorry. We were talking about wrestling, and as soon as you said Nathan Jones, I'm like, Beast of Bago Road, of course. Like,
My favorite thing with Nathan, like on the, we have a chat. I'll personally message him and I'll text him. Mind you, just text him so you can't hear the audio. I'll text him what JR would say in a comment, and then I'll let him fill in the Jerry the King Lawler responses to it, and then we'll like
you just hit
keep
him
going.
with like layups and hope that he smacks it.
Like, that son of a bitch, he's got a family, for God's sakes. And
does he ever just hit you back with like a puppies, JR, puppies?
Exactly. It's the natural response.
I think you could stab one of us. Let's just let him go. Everyone has one sketchy friend in their group, and it's always like somebody else's friend that got brought in, and they just haven't done anything sketchy like around you guys yet.
You see, that's how I feel when it's like a three-way conversation I have with like Daniel and Mitch, or like any other podcaster that's in our guild. And I'm the one that's also being brought in. I feel like that's the kid, because when I talk, they act quiet and let me speak. And I'm like, I think they're afraid of me or of what I'm going to say. So
yeah, maybe you bring that like that Joker energy of like you're sitting there and you're just gonna burst if someone says something wrong. You know,
well,
like
it's definitely because I use a DSLR as my camera, not just my webcam on my computer. I think it's the intimidation.
That is a big flex.
For those who are curious that like what goes on in a call, if you are curious, you should ask to be a guest on here sometime. And Mitch thinks I'm still always like wearing no pants when I record still, so I've never recovered from that from a reputation standpoint.
I don't want to like call you out, but I did see a little bit of leg before when we started, and I can only see you torso up, so neither confirm nor deny what else is going on here.
Yeah, I'm a big pusher of the 5-inch short movement for men. Like I think 5-inch shorts are
let me see more leg.
Yeah. I'm like
I think it's also like, how tall are you?
I'm 5'8".
Okay. Well, no, this is whatever. I'm like 5'9", 5'10", like around there. But it's like you will get this then. Like the higher shorts, you show a little bit more leg. It looks like you're taller. You're not just this little torso. I don't know about you, but like I feel taller.
Some parts of me think like they're 5-inch short. So what does that mean in relation to like Schmeat? Like with inches? Like, do you have to measure base to get, how much room does it need to have?
No. Like shorts, I'm sure it just curls around like how like a soft serve ice cream, I'm assuming. So you don't have to worry about the short length. Like
that's why I always think older guys are bigger than me. It's because they all still rock the 11 and 9-inch shorts. Like they need the room. They need the room.
Let it breathe.
I'm sure people are listening like, what the hell is how
what are we talking about?
But here's the thing. The first Hell House, that came out in 2015, I think it was.
What a fucking you know what, sir? I congratulate you. That was an amazing segue.
Yeah, because they're all a bunch of friends just shooting the shit, you know, and right. Just talking about random stuff, and it's a found footage movie. And Buzi, I don't know if I've heard you talk about this on the tier, because I stalk you guys on the Terror Table. Like I listen to your episodes and like laugh out loud and then catch the small little conversations you have to like piece together what my impression of your tastes and personalities outside the mic are. And right. I don't know if I ever actually heard you talk about like found footage films before. So I was curious, like, are you a big fan of those movies?
I think honestly, I'm a huge fan of those. I think out of anybody, I don't know if the other guys would agree with me, but like out of anyone at the Terror Table, I'm the most, like Mitch loves found footage, but I feel like he still has a little bit of like, what would the word be? He holds it to a certain standard of like, it has to be of a certain quality where I can kind of get down with those films that maybe don't have that as much polish. And I love those because I think there's something if you can immerse me enough to be like, I'm a person running around with a camera and some wild shit's happening, I'm like, I'm there for it. I think that's always a fun concept. And I think that's a great way for people to tell stories and get these cool stories out, even if they don't have the budget for it.
No, I'm glad how you said that. Like it gives people the chance and opportunity, because that I agree. The way I look at movies is like not now. Like now I watch movies a little different than I was growing up. But growing up, a lot of my favorite movies and the movies that scared me a lot like were found footage movies, because like totally. The POV, you know, and it's submersing yourself in it. You think about like video games, you know, like those first person horror video games get so much attention because, you know, you're submersed in it. And I think that's really good. And I think it's an art style that is easy to criticize, but I feel like there's a lot more work that goes into them that's given credit.
I don't think people understand. Like, yes, you can have these kind of more boring, I guess, or kind of drivel found footage. It's just we've all seen the ones where it's somebody running around in the forest for half an hour. Like there's like Blair Witch that has that concept but does it well. There's a ton of movies that did the same idea of just, oh, we're trying to find something in the woods and we run around forever, and it doesn't work. But I agree with you, and I think it is the point of putting you constantly in that position of you only have one dimension of what you're seeing, so you're forced to sit with that. I think, and that's not there's a lot of horror movies now that like you're not traditional found footage, you know, just your standard movie where they show so many different angles of things that you kind of get an idea of where I guess danger is, which is something you're never afforded in found footage. Actually, I really relate to that. I really enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. And I think found footage films, it sounds weird. I don't know how I'm going to say this, but like I get with traditional movies, like you have actors playing characters, you know, so you have like different types of characters and tropes and stuff. In found footage movies, the thing I really enjoy about them is I feel like they're not actors. They're just genuine people in front of the camera acting how any of us would if we were there with friends. So that camaraderie, that nonverbal camaraderie in the movies, I really enjoy because I feel like I'm a part of that group. And maybe it's because I don't have any friends at all, but I just kind of like to subvert myself in other groups. But like with found footage movies, like I feel like, yeah, the one who's recording, that could be me next to him getting all scared, you know, and like the horror that they pretend to have with just a shadow in front of them. It's like, yeah, like I'm all about that shit.
And I always, there's always that thing about like, oh, why wouldn't the person just drop the camera? You know, all the semantics of well, how did they find the footage or why didn't you drop it? It's like, I don't know. Some of these situations, I probably would be like, you know, if I'm holding a camera, like I gotta get some of this. If someone's got to see this.
But a few found footage movies. If you have any opinions on them, please let me know. Mm-hmm. I thought it'd be cool since House LLC, they came out 2015. It got a lot of great reception. It did really well. And surprisingly,
like I remember when it first kind of came out, we actually had a couple of our listeners just kind of offhandedly mention, and I have a huge list of movies, and I'll just keep writing them down of like, if people are like, oh, you might like this. So it kind of got to a point where eventually I did get to it. But yeah, I remember right when it first came out, I had people being like, yeah, this is really good and it's found footage. And just for whatever reason, I was like, I don't need this in 2015 right now. Like 2015, Anthony doesn't want to watch this.
But it did so well. And I feel like the late 2000s and early 2010s is when like the height of found footage movies.
Well, that was all, anything like post Cloverfield for like that 4 to 5 years was like, holy shit, we can do this.
Mm-hmm. I went ahead and jotted down a few of my favorites.
Okay.
So I put Wreck in there. I think Wreck is better than Quarantine, the American ones. So I really enjoyed Wreck.
Do you like Quarantine? I thought that one, like, it wasn't terrible, but I do understand that, like, if you're comparing those two, that Wreck is better.
Well, I like Wreck 1 and 2. I never saw the third one. And then I saw Quarantine 1 and 2. 1 is good, but 2 is not. That's the only difference I have between the two. I like the setting of Wreck more. I don't like the airport much as a setting in the Quarantine movies. But yeah, so I got Wreck, I got the Paranormal Activity. I personally like the marked ones because it's the only one with a Hispanic family, and their whole, I guess, marketing for this movie was like, we're going to put in the trailer Spanish speaking characters when they see a ghost or something scary. Right. And then it's
so you're enjoying the representation of this?
Yeah.
Please, inside now.
Did someone die?
I saw myself. The lady who got killed, she lives right under me.
Padre nuestro que estás en los cielos.
She's talking about Jessica has a bad spirit and she needs us out.
Saludas así como nosotros. Ave María, llena eres de gracia, el Señor es contigo. Bendita tú eres entre todas las.
Yeah, like the subtle racism and like the tropes that Hispanics have with like demons and stuff, that's going to get white people in the seats. And I'm like, Yeah, this is a good look for us. Like this is gonna be sleek, you know.
Can you? Okay, I haven't actually seen that one because I inevitably it has nothing to do that it was it's just there's so many of these fucking things. I got washed out on it. How is the marked one? Because I always laughed at the idea of the whole point of Paranormal Activity is you can't see, it's the whole like things are moving and you can't see anything. So I think it's hilarious that they're like throw that idea out, see everything.
Well, it was kind of like a soft reboot because it's called The Marked Ones and they have a different family instead of the stupid story they were following with the first three. But I enjoyed, they had some really good elements to it, but overall it's still a Paranormal Activity movie and it tries to create a multiverse, before MCU really hammered that idea, which I gave it props for, but it falls flat. I definitely saw some traits of like family members on my Hispanic side in that movie. So that was always kind of comforting. But yeah, Paranormal Activity
is a comfort movie for you. It's not like home.
But no, Paranormal Activity, it feels to me like those Conjuring movies and like Insidious movies, and like it felt like it was the standard of like the whole of that type of subgenre, similar to how like those movies.
Yeah, it's so funny that you'll see over time is that these franchises pop up, and that will be kind of your what quote unquote standard. Like I do consider the last couple of years it's been, or for however how long it's been, all these Conjuring movies, whether it be in the actual Conjuring, or all the Annabelles and however many other things. That's kind of like the quote unquote standard. It does feel like it's like the hot toy line right now.
Yeah, and it feels like this is like the studio version of it. It's not like an indie. It's not low budget or anything. But so yeah, that's one of them I have to mention. Zombie Diaries and A Diary of the Dead, which one of them is a Romero film. The other one is just a found footage zombie movie, Zombie Diaries. I really enjoy that. And it had a sequel that was pretty good too. Both POV, which is great. Grave Encounters 1 and 2 is another soft one I have in my heart for. Yeah. They're absolutely correct.
They're not awful. I always what would the word be? I credit them with being part of that big like spooky eyes where it's the giant black eyes and the giant black mouth thing that was like for a while it was like everyone has to do that to be spooky, and I always, whether it was Grave Encounters or not, it always just felt like because of them that was like a hot thing for a while.
It was always like the bad guy, like the villain in the movies. With that was like anything with the green screen POV. Yeah. And it was like I'm pretty sure Zero Dark 30 stole that idea from Grave Encounters later on for when they filmed the Osama bin Laden killing. I'm pretty sure that's where it came from.
That does sound right. The whole time I was watching Grave Encounters is like, I hope they could turn this into killing Osama somehow.
They're gonna steal our night vision idea.
Hot idea.
Yeah, but you get things like now, like the found footage is moved on from cameras now to like webcams and computer POVs, which I think is really good. So you get something like Searching, which I think kind of set this is what like a really good movie could do with this aspect. And John Cho was great in that. And then I
actually went to see Searching in theaters, and I remember that was actually a pretty cool movie that they did keep going between all these things so that you never left a screen, but you were always somewhere within the story.
Yeah, and if I feel like that kind of pushed the already set standard of POV with a camera. It moves it now, because like I think the Unfriended movie did the whole, Skype call like template and stuff, and and
I think that was the big thing is without COVID, we wouldn't have had so many movies that kind of use that. There's like a Zoom call movie, it's all these different kind of concepts that people had to get creative, which I think is really cool. But I hope we don't just stick with technology that way. I don't know. I still want to see some camera stuff.
The only thing it's hard for me to believe with that is like these high schoolers use Skype. I never used Skype through high school ever to call my friends.
Is Skype not cool?
I think it's.
I feel like Zoom is like the like Big Brother one where it's like we're having a meeting on Zoom versus like we're hanging out on Skype.
I'm only copying Zoom from like the more professional podcasters like Daniel and Michael Scott and the Atkins on Suite. I'm just copying them because if they're successful with that and they use Zoom, I need to be using Zoom if I want to be successful. It's the whole, following your heroes and shit.
Step 1, Zoom. Step 2, profit.
And let me just bring it all back home with two of my personal favorite found footage movies that don't get enough credit, but it's definitely Apollo 18 and Megan is Missing. Those movies do not get enough love.
I love that you said Apollo 18.
Yeah.
Everyone hated that movie, but I thought it was a fun, like cool little film and I like the idea of it.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're the only person I know that's actually seen it and likes it.
I own it.
So, oh,
I own
thank
it.
God.
I found like a $5 copy at Walmart. And I was like, of course.
It's the movie that really pushed me to do like more history checking on like the Apollo 13 and like just NASA and stuff. Cause like I was like,
I think
so
it's very
unaware.
interesting. Hey,
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what the numbers are. And like, is this, I actually thought after watching Apollo 18, it was the real, like, there was a really Apollo 18 that this happened and stuff. It like was the one that says based on, actual events, cause it has that opening.
It wasn't just because the fact that they brought back some moon rocks and that was like a thing and some of them got stolen. So then they were like, oh, maybe they grew legs.
Yeah. Anyway, that ending of that movie really shook me. And I do like Apollo 18. It's in space. It has that Dead Space vibe.
Hi, we should do a review of that. It'll be like it'll be probably the only one out there.
And then Megan is missing. I'm pretty sure Mitch loves that movie too, right?
Yes, that's is that actually, that one's not based on true events as well?
I mean, it's based on true things that happen to people.
Right. It's not one specific thing though, right?
No. It is a pretty grotesque found footage movie though. Like it's a hard stomached movie for me, but
I still haven't. That one's another one on my list I haven't seen.
Yeah, you should you should like watch it by yourself and then not be scared because it's like you'll have trust issues after.
Do you mind if I throw in two of my favorites?
Please do.
Because nobody ever talks about them, and I want to be that Twitter guy that's like, well, actually, I have this obscure movie. So I just want to say Australia's The Tunnel. We did an episode on it because I insisted. I think it's actually terrifying. That's one of those found footage movies you can watch in the dark, and I actually got a lot out of that one. And then the other one is from, oh God, I can't remember what year it's from, but it's The Bay. Dude,
Mitch told me I need to watch The Bay.
Dude, you need to watch The Bay. It's fantastic, and it's I think like 2012. It was using a lot of the ideas that you're seeing now, like using security footage and like CCTV, that sort of thing, and using all these different so it's not just telling you this like one camera person story. It's showing you this grand scope of what's happening on this island. I think you'd really like that.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I do have that on my queue. So I'm now that you've also said The Bay, it's like I guess I definitely need to just watch it.
And those are two movies that actually like do scare me because they're about things that terrify me. So
is The Tunnel and Tubi?
Tunnel? I don't. You know what?
You're like, hold on, let me open up my book. Let me see.
Tubi thing. I actually believe that because I went out and actually found a copy, but I believe it's available on YouTube.
Oh
no, yeah, nobody's pulled it down. It's been up there. That's like the first time I watched it. I'm pretty sure it was just on YouTube. So
nice. Well, definitely gonna check those out. And I like how you said the different aspects of this. With Hell House, the first one, it's all on camera. Like it's a guy holding a decent camera and following these friends who own like a small terror haunted house company, and they nestle inside a hotel, and like I think it's like the New England area, and they call it Hell House. And that's the premise basically, right? And
it's like this hotel that some weird stuff has happened and people have been murdered or went missing, and just because of that over time they closed it down. And they decide that these people decide they're going to rent it and start this spooky little haunted house thing. And it looks like they do a pretty good job. Like they have a little bit of a budget for the haunted house itself, because like I worked at one for a little bit. And
I was wondering I was like, if anyone would work at something like this, it would be someone like Buzi.
I did one Halloween, one October. I worked at a haunted house, and it was a lot of fun. I dressed up as Michael Myers and scared people.
Hell yeah. Wait, did you have like the nice suit that said, "Oh, do you want to get randy, baby? Do you want to shag?" And they were like running the fuck away.
They're like, "Oh no, it's the wrong one. It's the weird one that we don't like." If I was gonna do any Michael Myers, what was that one? It was like the Love Guru.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I would just dress up like that one, and everyone would be like, and I just want to say, do you think that, like, this is a personal question, because we both don't like The Rock, right?
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Oh, Dwayne The Rock Johnson?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, dude, Stone Cold forever.
Okay, so my question is, do you think he regrets making Skyscraper? like besides the fact that it was like a paycheck, do you think he was like, what the fuck was that?
I don't know. I think it was to push the infrastructure industry, honestly. That's why he made the movie, because he did that and Rampage, which is about tearing down big buildings and you know.
Yeah, but there was never like a skyscraper for N64. There was Rampage for N64. So I mean, I can at least see that.
I didn't see Skyscraper, but I knew I didn't need to watch Skyscraper, and I've heard from some people who love it. But that's also, if you're an action fan, you're gonna love it. But I don't know.
How much stuff can he do with a crane? Like,
I thought it was. It looked like it was part of the Fast and Furious franchise.
yeah, it's just like him swinging around on a crane. I hope somebody was certified on that set.
I don't know, but The Rock's filmography for me, like,
very sus.
I like his earlier stuff more than his newer stuff, and I will stand on a poll and say I'm never gonna do a Jumanji 2 episode on here ever. Like, I just won't ever happen.
I feel like you're totally right. Is at the start he like wasn't overexposed, and it was like, oh, he's funny and doing one-liners and punching bad guys. Like, he had like some Indiana Jones vibes, and then he just turned into like your not funny uncle all of a sudden, and it was just everywhere.
It's because
he got a divorce and like moved into your house and like, go away.
And he keeps hanging out with the younger kids and saying he's going to kick their ass next year, and then doesn't.
And he just has like this like rivalry with this other bald like Vin Diesel guy, and you're like, who cares? You're both bald. Sharing the sweet comforts of not having hair.
So I don't fuck with bald cinema, man. Like, I just don't watch bald cinema. Guys who are bald and hard asses, I don't. It's kind of like the short guy syndrome for me. For my 5'6" and under boys, like, you scare me a little bit.
Yeah, it's like watching WWE, because when I was growing up, I was like, there's nobody for me to really relate to, and then they finally brought out Hornswoggle, and I was like, finally, someone the same height as me.
Yeah, speaking of that, like, my favorite part of The Rock is when like he was doing those early action movies, because to me that was the Brahma Bull Rock. It wasn't like Samoa tattoo Rock.
You mean when he came back as like Hollywood Rock and he had that shitty tattoo, and then he's just consistently gotten worse since then.
And I've always wondered what he's smelling, because I'm like, I'm not feeling you, man.
Yeah. I'm drinking the Bud Lights with the BLs with Stone Cold, but I'm not smelling what's going on over here.
That's right. Favorite 90s wrestler, real quick. Do you have one? Do you have like a 90s wrestler like, that's my guy?
Oh, other than Bret Hart?
Yeah. Like the Attitude Era, I should say. Like WWF, Monday Night Wars. Like, who's that guy for you?
Is it wild that, like, okay, if you want to make, like, can I say WCW guys then? If we're talking like,
shit,
have to be WWE.
Yeah.
Well, because like I'm a huge no. Close. I'm a huge Razor Mark.
Yeah, Scott Hall, dude. Hell yeah.
Oh, dude, it's the wildest stuff is like, now we're going back to talking about wrestling. If you ever like listen to any like his interviews and stuff, this dude like knew so much about like the psychology and everything, and like you think he like didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He was brilliant.
But real quick, since it turned into a WWE Network podcast episode, with the House LLC, it basically they build the haunted house, and we follow like the cameraman, because he's the one that's seeing all these things. Like, it's a really good hotel that's not hotel, but haunted house that's being built. Like, they're doing it all by scratch. It's just a bunch of friends hanging out with each other, and
that's
stuff.
what I mean. Besides, like, it even just being the premise of the movie is like when they're building it, like, I'd go through that house. It looks great.
Yeah, like, they do a good job. And then he realizes that there are like some weird oddities, like their mannequins are being moved around, and he thinks, like, he looks at something and it's not there anymore. It's very subtle. It's slower paced, and like it's reveals on what's going on. But when they do happen, it does feel really weird. Like, it feels like you're actually in like this person's basement or this hotel's basement when these happen. But that's it. It's really just a kind of like supernatural elements. And then at the end, with the beginning and the end, they show you that like news coverage about this event has happened. And then you get to see different places of when the event happened, where a bunch of people died in the basement. And I thought that's really cool because like I don't remember much of the character names, but I remember the different like people were like, this is how it looked from this angle. This is how everything is happening
which is a great secondary way to give you that information. Like you said, like you don't remember their names, but you remember enough to be like, oh, okay, this person did this just based on looking at them.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of ends in a way where it's like it's a mystery. Nobody knows what really happened down there until like the end of the movie. You kind of get an idea like something otherworldly happened, but that's it. It's nothing like big reveal. Like it's just kind of like a what if. It feels like if you're watching one of those early 2000s YouTube documentaries, like people find like talking about this event that actually happened, you know, and it's like a 30-minute video. That's what this movie felt like. And it was done really well. And then after that movie ends, I was wondering like, how are they going to do another one, you know, like a sequel. So the second one came out 2018. So it's like what, 4 years later or 3 years later. And it's more
a fairly quick turnaround for something so small.
Yeah, and it's directed by the same guy, Stephen Cognetti. And from reading about him and like the success of the House LLC movie and him, he already had an idea for a trilogy while making that first movie, which he does. He directs all three. He was like knowing what he wanted the center story of like this hotel, the Abbadon Hotel, which is funny. It's called House LLC. Technically,
it's called the Abbadon Hotel.
The Abbadon Hotel. Yeah. What did I say?
Well, oh, you were like adding an extra. I'm just like I'm trying to remember, like, is that how we should check out? I'm pretty sure it's Abbadon.
It's the Abbadon Hotel. Okay. I just pronounce things horribly. That's just really what it comes down to.
I don't mean to flex on here.
But it's like that's like the main thing of this whole franchise or trilogy is that hotel. But they keep using the name House LLC as like the company name from the first movie, which is funny because of the second one now. First of all, the production values are a lot different. It's more digital. It's less like more camera focused. It's more digital, like people sitting in front of green screens doing like fake morning news.
That green screen.
Yeah, like it's all morning news, green screens and fake interviews and like, you know, they put up shots of like other people. Like it's weird because it's like there's no like band of friends of the second one. It's just all about
it's these survivor. Like small groups. Yeah, these like small groups of people explaining their story. Yeah, I guess the survivor it would be.
Yeah, and his last name's Kavanaugh, Mitchell Kavanaugh, and I was like, ooh, this last name doesn't really age well already. But he's on there like defending like himself because he was accused of killing his friends, even though nobody can like put out a definitive answer what happened to the people in the first movie. And now everyone's like, well, we got to go to we got to go back and like maybe we'll find things and shit. And then you get a bunch of cutaways in the movie to other people's POV shots of going in the hotel. And it's like, okay, it's like if TikTokers or influencers went to the Abbadon.
I kind of liked that it was just this amalgamation of like, we're also going to the house. Hey, what's up? We're going to the house too. Like, what did you actually really liked when you're kind of mentioning the TikToker thing is that guy who goes live, who sneaks in, and by sneaks in, he literally just like walks up to it.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a really cool scene when they have like him frozen and they're like this video hasn't been altered at all and it's just him standing there. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the element that works for it, but I see a lot of negative talk about it when I go on YouTube and listen to reviews for House LLC because that's what I do for homework. I go on YouTube and I see what the YouTube community says about these movies I'm about to defend or praise, and you know I hear these negative talks. They don't like how there's a lot of cutaways and like editor notes on the screen. Like it'll say like instead of showing what happens, it'll have like
they kind of force your perspective that way or force the story instead of letting it progress like how you're saying. It's just like let's just add some titles at the bottom and now we know where we're going again.
which I can see it being really frustrating doing that in the movie versus with the first one being all in front of you. But to me, it was kind of like little bit more scary because it just explains it. Like I said, he was found killed with this or what, yada, yada. And then it cuts to the next group of people. To me, it kind of felt unsettling because like they'll show the image more in a still and zoom in and then it'll go to a transition.
It reminds me of those like those shows where they're looking for like ghosts and stuff in old castles, and they'll stop and they're like, oh, there was a thing of light, and then they'll zoom in on it and it's just this kind of fuzzy picture of something.
And I'm a sucker for those. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
I think
it must be something with that. Like if you like those things, then Hell House is for you.
Yeah, and I do like ghost adventures. I do. I know it's BS for the most part, but I do really enjoy like the hunt and the mystery of it. And that's kind of the fault of this second movie is that instead of leaving the mystery be like in the first one, it really tries hard to explain the mystery and gives this world so much more than maybe even needs to. Because you're meeting all these characters and everything is on the focal point of this news interview while that's going on the entire time. It's giving you clips that happen later after the interview and like during the interview, because it's like groups of people going to find out what's going on with the hotel. And then it's like the same group that's being interviewed. We're seeing them while they're being interviewed when they like eventually go back. And it's kind of hard to track at times from a timeline perspective because it'll go forward and then go back and then current, and it's kind of a lot at once.
I really do, and I do totally agree with you. I don't know if we can talk about how we feel about House LLC 2 yet.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just want to say, like, and I just want to talk about that because it goes with what you're saying. Is what I like so much about the first one is, it did so much with so little, and that's also on a story front. Is they give you a pretty much a simple haunted house tale, and it's just people working within that. Whereas this one, it convolutes the shit out of it, and there's so many more elements and characters that seem so over the top that you can't find any realness in them. What was the one guy's name? The mega Chad like guy who was summoning the demons and.
Oh yeah, I know you're talking. He's basically like the TV personality, like the ghost adventure guy.
Yeah, and it's just he's so over the top, and it's like some stuff like that where it's very off-putting because I did like how basically straightforward that first one is, and like I will say is that I do like the first one so much, but yeah, the second one it still has some okay elements, but I find the third one. It basically continues this story and keeps adding more and more things around it, and it does feel like this kind of small concept turns into this over the top like holy war in the third one, and it's a lot, and if that's what was planned from the start, that's totally fine, and I can just pick up with the first one being like that's more my speed, whereas these two, I'm not like, and it is the thing like the one's the best one, two is whatever, and then 3 is quite a bit more poor.
No, I haven't seen the third one yet, Lake of Fire, but it's literally mentioned in the second movie, like it's already about to be coming out. Like I said, Stephen Cognetti already knew what he was doing with this trilogy, and I kept thinking when watching the second one, oh, I like this part. This is pretty cool. This works well, but also I'm thinking, man, I'm, and I watched them back to back. I was like, I'm struggling to like keep the connection from the first one with the second one. Like, it feels like it wants to disconnect while also be connected, but it's like,
yeah,
you can't, don't call it Hell House LLC then. Cause I'm going to keep thinking about the production company, and then it shows like you said, the holy war religious aspects of this movie in the second one, and the plot twist is kind of interesting and it's kind of tongue in cheek. Like at the end of the news interview and of everything, the reveal. But like, it is kind of cringy, but also kind of like, like when watching the ending of like the reveal of the mystery, of everything. But then it's like, it really like the movie really was hoping that you remember the people's names and like parts from the first movie.
And that's a testament to, maybe not a great one, but it's a testament that you watch them back to back and you're still kind of going,
I applaud it.
I have so many positive things to say about this. Like, I think that genuinely they did so many well thought out things with this. Like, that piano piece that they have, it's actually, it fits, and it's rare that you get, for quote unquote, like, these are your jingles or whatever, and to actually have a horror movie that had its own little fun one that's recognizable, because as soon as I hear that, I know exactly what movie it's from. I think it's great that way.
Yeah, and it's weird that the kid is playing that same thing in the beginning, and then you hear like a really deep voice out of nowhere being, I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, that's really weird.
They have some real fun stuff like sprinkled in here that are just kind of, I don't know if it would be like they're playing darts, kind of the cool ideas, throwing cool ideas at the board, because they sprinkle a lot of cool things in here. It's just right. It's the overarching story itself is kind of poor for me. Like, I really liked at the start how like the mom gets these text messages from her son who's been missing for like 4 years, and it's just like, come to the dining room. I thought like stuff like that, it's like, oh, that's cool. That's neat little fun things.
There's so many good ideas on there, but yeah, like you said, they're so short, and I swear they must have been on a time crunch with like costumes, because they must have rented out like a black cloak for somebody, because they throw that all in the beginning of the movie. They're like, stop the scene. There's somebody with a cloak in the background. Oh, did you not see it? We're going to zoom in ×3 on this part. Next clip, same thing.
Man. My girlfriend was in the room while I was watching too. She was just like studying on her computer. And yeah, that one where they take a picture outside and there's just clearly somebody standing there. Like, even she saw it and was like, really? Because it's just, there's ways that you can do that, like, superimpose it into a window or something that looks a little bit less. I think it takes away from the scariness of somebody, a cloaked figure, when they're just standing on a veranda in the background. Like, they're not even tucked away, really. They're just like kind of hanging out.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that there were so many images like that in the beginning of the movie. I was like, chill out with these demons, and that's what happens eventually. Is the movie is just more centered on like this demonic aspect of the haunted house versus like ghosts and hauntings, like the first one was doing. This one is
it becomes way less subtle.
Yeah, it's like these people are dead, but like now they're demonic, like they're more aggressive and stuff, and it's like. Okay.
Yeah, they're like a video game character. Their aggression points went up or something. Yeah, like there was that couple of fellas who follow that girl. Apparently they just can't keep up with the girl walking, but she goes into the basement and just turns around and goes spooky mode on them. Which I like at the start. I was like, oh, that's really cool. They're going to the basement again, and then it's like, oh, she's just standing right there. Like.
Yeah, a lot of misses, but a few good hits in this movie is really how I describe it.
When you see the first one, they go down to the basement and they have those dolls or whatever.
Yeah.
Or and they're all
mannequins.
sitting against,
yeah, they look good.
Yeah, and that looks great. And you're watching them and you're hoping that they don't turn or whatever. This one, they give you that same thing as like we're going down the stairs. And instead of having, maybe that person standing with the mannequins or something, it's just literally the character just right there. I don't know. It feels so blunt and like not thought out that way, because you're right. It's supposed to be like, I don't know. I felt the first one had a little bit more tact, and that maybe it's a little bit just like it's a haunting too. Where this one just feels kind of like vengeful spirits being dicks at a house. Like the one that gets summoned from I think it's what's his name, Brock Davies. When Brock Davies summons them or whatever, they're literally just sitting in this bar area, and one of them just decides like, I'm gonna hang them, I guess.
Yeah. And I don't know, like the focus changes so much. Like, I get it. Like, I guess the guy who made these movies, he had a clear direction where he wanted to go. He was like, okay, well, I have to do this right now to make it make sense when I make this next movie or whatever. But it just feels like such a departure. Like, like it's a full like 180. Like I liked how in the ending of the first one, it did kind of give this idea that like, oh, possibly there was a portal of sorts open. There's like something happened that we don't know about. And the second one, it's like, oh, well, the CEO of the company was actually in dire debt. And
this corporate thing.
Yeah. He's like, he made a deal with me, a devil or something. And it's like, huh? Like, we didn't get any of those vibes in the first movie or what? I mean, I figured he was a struggling business owner, but I figured that was because of the economy in 2015. But
like nothing is less scary than it just turning out to be like basically a backdoor business deal with the devil. Come on, give me some like you want souls for an army or something. Not just like we're 500K in debt.
Right. And then you find out, and then here's where the spoiler, I guess is it's like, oh, like we're fueling the legend of the Abbadon Hotel. Like we want people to come here so we can like harvest them for our followers and our demonic cult or whatever.
For followers and likes.
Yeah, for clout.
and clout and shares.
Yeah, like the devil's running their Facebook group, like, you know, their Reddit and their 4chan groups, you know, and it's like,
yeah, they have like a weird pyramid scheme going on where it's like you have to get 8 people to like this page, and
I don't know. I just it was cool because you got a lot of different types of POVs. Like you got the camcorder, you got a Facebook Live part, you get the green screen. Like it feels like there's more money in this one, but it can't really replicate when they get into the hotel.
Yeah,
the found footage aspect like the first one did, and I don't know why.
I don't know why they call it a hotel. It does seem like more of like a motel or like an Airbnb. I don't know. It just, even when that guy like sneaks in and just kind of follow, and I know it's obviously it's like a lower budget movie and blah blah blah, but it is kind of funny is I was trying to figure like the logistics of where they are at the hotel, and it just none of it. I was just like, okay, they definitely have a basement, and then they have this kitchen.
Yeah, it is kind of weird, honestly, like for the construction of a hotel.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you think of like, and I'm assuming this is what the writer director is going for, is kind of when you think of like the hotel, it's supposed to be kind of like the H.H. Holmes, like, you know, this huge sprawling house and there's secret rooms and stuff like that, you know, and it does kind of, it's just like, oh, it's this like 3-room weird thing.
Did you, when you watched House LLC too, were you by yourself or, oh, you said you were with your girlfriend, but like,
yeah, I ended up watching it actually 3 times. We were supposed to record this a little while ago, and just because of, you know, me being sick, we had to put it off. But like, I've watched it 3 times. The first 4 times, I guess, since I've watched it 3 times in preparation for this, and 4 times overall, which is way more than I've watched the first one, which is the better one.
Okay, because I was thinking after watching it, I was like, even though this one's not that good compared to the first one still too, I could still see myself watching these 2 movies like as background movies and not like be bothered. You know what I mean? Like there's some horror elements that kind of would spook me. Like, again, like I hate the still scenes with like a scary image in the second one. That's the big thing for them is they just do a lot of like 0 volume still images that are creepy and then like pitch to black, you know, explanations of what's about to happen. A little creepy to me, but that's just personally what I find creepy. So that works, but I could see that being annoying.
Immersed you in some way.
Yeah, but I could see myself like having that in the background in October and like, you know, making pumpkin spice lattes and, you know, eating cornbread and
eating cornbread.
Yeah, trying to slide in the DMs of other podcasters I want for my October month podcasting, but like, and I'd have House LLC 1 or 2 on there, and I'd be pretty happy. I'm not gonna lie. Even though,
I definitely feel like Hell House, like at least the first one is one where it's like, oh, if you have any interest in like found footage and you haven't seen it, like, hey, this one's actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that actually maybe is a testament to it in a weird way when we're talking about the fact that there's 3 of them. Is outside of like Paranormal Activity, how many like found footage movies have
a trilogy?
Or even a sequel. I mean, we did mention a couple, but it is kind of, found footage is more reliant on like this one small story. There's not usually like sequel. So it is kind of interesting that way that it's pretty ambitious to try and make a whole quote unquote franchise out of that with the trilogy or whatever.
That's true. And you kind of, I don't know, but like, I mean, it must be hard to kind of piece, how do you keep making these movies connected in some way without, you know, making it be the same movie again. And I think that's kind of part of I think that's what made Paranormal Activity kind of successful in the beginning is like, okay, you watch the first one, it's a good movie about this couple. Second one, you get a new couple, but they're related to the first ones. Or then you get the third one that's like, now this is a sequel to what all happened and stuff.
No, that wasn't that one, which is the Back in Time one where it's like, we're in the 80s now.
Oh, maybe that's the third one.
Maybe that's 3.
Yeah, but like they do time jumps, but it's like a little bit different, but still the same thing. Say what you want about Paranormal Activity, they got that recipe down. You know, it's like Popeye's chicken.
Things.
It's like,
yeah,
you know what you're getting.
You don't get that many movies that came out to a wide audience without it being like people can say, oh, they're not scary or they're, this or that, but like they're well done and they made a lot of them. Whether they're good in terms of story wise after a certain point, who can say, but the fact is that they had so many of them and they were interesting enough. Like I think I've seen 4 of them. So
And I feel like that's the thing with this movie. It didn't give itself enough time to kind of do the same thing in a way with the second one. Like, I'm not saying like I wanted the exact same movie with the second one, but like, I feel like they could have made a story stronger connected to the first one instead of being so completely off the rails of the second, like it is
because they didn't establish their lore well enough.
And they push it all in the second one.
Yeah.
It's such a mythological movie with like so many elements to that hotel.
Maybe it's just me, but I just really like the idea of like, I kind of want to know like what we're dealing with throughout a movie, just in terms of like what you can and can't do. Just, it's like the way of like, okay, we know that if you have the Force, like it's like that's a Star Wars reference. Like you can't, if you bring somebody back from the dead, you have to be like a Sith. You can't, you can't be a Jedi.
Yeah.
It's like there's rules in that sort of thing. So it's not, that there's actual like stakes to whatever you're doing. Like if you're a Jedi and you die. Versus, and that's how I want to relate to this movie. Is like the first one is a lot more like Ghost, and the first one uses those 3 dummies a lot more. And I'm actually surprised that one like clown looking one. The clowns don't really scare me, but that thing looks terrifying, and I'm surprised it never really picked up in being that kind of like character, quote unquote, that you could recognize, like kind of as their logo. Because like I know that people like Art the Clown because he has a lot more personality and obviously just things he does, but I always feel like, hey, the clown from Hell House, like outside of it not like talking or anything, like it has a little bit of personality, and I want to see some more artwork from it or something. Like
like there's a lot of like memorable images in the first one. Like I like the basement, like there's a lot of scenes in the basement, and like the POV, like the camera's like there in front of the person talking and you can see their door opening, and like even though nothing's gonna happen behind him with the red light on, you kind of are afraid maybe something's gonna walk up on him. You get those kind of cool things in the first one. The second one, it's just like, we're going to this house, oh my god, we're in this house, we got to run away. You see more.
There's no rules to the house. It's like the house can summon people depending on like where in the conversation they're talking, they pick their points to come in, and I don't know, they like don't really chase you, but they always can be near. I don't know, they have like Michael Myers rules for it. And and I guess that I shouldn't be complaining, because it's like the Michael Myers thing, he can just be whatever and do whatever, but I don't know, feel like with something like this, I wanted a little bit more rules of what's going on.
I feel like I'm glad I watched the second one. I'm going to watch the third one. But man, I can't help but feel already after the sequel, I'm like, man, I feel like there's missed opportunities for this. Like I haven't seen this movie. Philip Yount from Philip Yount, who was a guest on our podcast, and we talked about a Godzilla movie. He was talking about this one found footage movie called and he's from the Dead Ringers podcast. Sorry. He talked about this one movie with one of the Duplass brothers. I think it was Mark Duplass who was in it. It's called Creep and Creep 2. They're on Netflix. And
have you never seen those?
No, I haven't. And
I think you'd really like those, dude. I'm surprised you haven't seen those. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he said. And I feel like watching the trailers for those movies, that's all I've done so far, is just watch trailers for them to get hyped. I feel like that's kind of like, how the Hell House movies could be like, in a way, like where it's like they seemed watching the trailers for Creep 1 and 2, and I shouldn't be basing movies based on trailers, but it seems like it's more seamless in like the type of movies those are. But like,
I think obviously because you haven't seen them, but I can kind of fill in the blank of like, I'm kind of picking at what you're laying down is, because I've seen these, the first one, it lays down all these rules. So when you watch the second one, it's trying to figure out ways around these, which, I think that's kind of maybe what Hell House was lacking, is instead of taking any rules that it did play with in the first one, it just added a ton more in the second one. It does feel like honestly, and I know we keep coming back to like, oh, it was a plan to be a trilogy from the start, but it's like, after you watch that first one, it doesn't feel like, it just feels like, oh, you just left it right there. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. And again, like it does have a little bit of like the news trying to figure out the story in the 1st one, but not as heavy as the second one is like. It does really push this world building out a lot with the other like non-important characters, relationship with the hotel, which can some work to an extent, but it is just, I've never seen a movie like Hell House 2 and like the way it tries to build the lore for this in the sequel. It's weird.
It is very interesting, and it does seem more focused on just these little moments of, oh, this is scary, versus having any. It does feel like any buildup that they have, it pays off immediately.
Yeah.
If you're going to go in the basement, you're going to get attacked right away. If you are a dingus and you summon a demon, it's going to attack you. Like, it is. There's no buildup or like cut back and forth. Like, oh, we shouldn't have done this. It does. Even. When they have the door closed on them and they're trying to like beat that up, like it feels like it just immediately is like, okay, let's go do something else instantly. There's no like build up or carryover. I don't know. It's just that definitely frustrated me.
It's frustrating. This movie could have been a lot better is what it really is. And it's weird like to be on like, listening to this podcast and like we've tried to find good with a lot of sequel movies and stuff, but I'm not gonna sit here and say like House LLC 2 is like phenomenal or it's better than the first, because I don't think it is, but I do feel like I was curious enough after watching that first one to go and watch the sequel, and after watching the sequel I'm like, okay, I'm
you're
good.
Still gonna go watch the third one, which speaks for itself, the fact that you have seen these two and you want to finish the story, and I felt the same way, is that
I'm invested.
As different as, and I'm sure there's people out there who like are like, wow, 2 is way better than 1, and that's totally fine. It's like we all got something out of there to be invested in the third one, and I think that is really novel that you could have something like that, because you do want to see what happens.
Yeah, and it's like a movie that's being crowned as one of the best found footage movies in years with the first one. It kind of falls like most of its predecessors with found footage movies and their sequels, so a tragic tale, honestly, for the sequel films and the found footage genre, at least in my eyes. But and I think we'll leave it there with Hell House 2. Is watch the first one, for God's sakes. Please watch that first one. I really enjoyed that movie. It's really good. It holds up. And if you like it enough, like if you're like, oh, I want to make Hell House kind of like my thing, then watch the second one. And then we'll see if you should watch the third one, because I haven't seen it yet. But I'm curious to see what, I don't think maybe, I feel like a lot of people stop after the first movie for depending on the genre and stuff. I feel like people are like, I don't need to see it again, or a sequel.
And honestly, that's not even just like the fault of Hell House. That's also just, like I said before, like that's a found footage thing. Not a lot of people are gonna be like, yeah, I want to watch found footage part 2 of whatever, and that's how people are.
Yeah, it's like I've watched Rec and I'm like, oh, I want to watch Rec 2, but then some people were like, oh, but I don't want to watch Rec 3 Genesis. Like, what is that? Just to knock that movie just a little bit.
Yeah, fuck you, Genesis.
All right. Well, Buzi, what do you got going on, man? Like, you weren't on the last Terror Table episode. When are you going to be hopping back on there again? We always
hopefully
like to
soon. We do have some stuff recorded that's going to get dropped here. Had some fun video or fun podcast episodes coming up. Like all of us have a lot going on right now. As you can see, like go over to our page and check out what's going on. Like a bunch of huge stuff. We have like with Mitch and his Kickstarter and everything, and that is going to be huge. And yeah, I'm on my own account posting memes, laying low. So that's pretty much it. Like I don't have a lot to plug. Just check out the Terror Table if you like horror movies at all, or we're fun, I guess. Yeah.
So speaking of that, with Mitch, he's working on a short film called The Druid's Hand, I believe.
The Druid's Hand, yes.
And he has a Kickstarter. Donate to that, share it and stuff. We're all very proud of him and we're excited for him. I think he looks pretty schmexy with that blonde hair now too.
Oh, totally. You know what? And the thing is I did that like years ago. I dressed up one year as, did you ever hear the story?
No.
I dressed up as Ryan Gosling from Drive one year for Halloween for a show that like Mitch was playing. So it was like, I was there dressed up like Ryan Gosling. And the whole time, like this happened for probably like a couple months after, is he would just call me Luca Magnotta the whole time. And it was just like, okay, now's your turn. It's your turn to feel this pain.
I feel like since you have longer hair than Mitch, and if you dyed it blonde, did you do the whole Dolph Ziggler thing where like you brush your hair all the way back and then throw the sweat from your hair and grease at everyone?
Dolph Ziggler is the greatest example of like, just pretend to be somebody else hard enough and you can get somewhere. Like he's it's just like dollar store Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I like Dolph Ziggler, but it's just he just steals his gimmick.
Yes, and I appreciate you, Buzi, being on here to share and understand these references pertaining to the WWE. It's really nice and it's a breath of fresh air. So
I'm sorry that I took so much of your time, but it's just like as soon as someone wants to talk to wrestling about me, especially like older wrestling, I love it. You want to talk about the Ruthless Aggression era? Fantastic.
Shit. All right. Well, my hands are getting sweaty because like we needed, if we need to do a wrestling podcast where it's you, Nathan Jones, and I, and we just talk a bunch of shit about like the early 2000s, early 90s.
Just spitting game. Like we can talk about like matches we like and shit. And
it's kind of like this podcast. Like people are like always wondering like, why does Chris like always act like he's so happy to talk about these sequel movies all the time? And it's like, well, it's not much work, but it's good work. I'm I hate my own show.
I definitely think you at some point should do an episode on Stepfather 2. Very solid Tubi choice.
Ooh, Stepfather 2.
Yeah, there's a trilogy of Stepfather films all on Tubi, and it's various stages of quality.
Can't wait to be a stepfather myself at some point in my life. So
you're just gonna you'd be a great stepfather. You're gonna
swoop
in,
I just
slugger.
Yeah, like I just don't want to spread my seed in the world, Like
you want to take care of someone else's kid that they don't want.
Yeah, I just want to be, that one guy who just decides not to want to have kids.
No, I totally get it. It's like adopting a dog that's like already a year old. Like you got past like the teething stage. Like, I'll take it from here.
Yeah. Well, Buzi, thank you so much for the kind words.
Thank you for having me. I'll love talking to you whenever I hear from you. I'm so excited.
Yes, like I do my best to take care of my boys. So whenever you have another movie,
I love that everything like you. It's like if something's going good, it's goated just instantly. Like I love that you just throw that around. I love that.
Yeah, I'm still convinced more than half our listeners on here don't understand any of the slangs or lingos, except maybe you or Mitch and Daniel partially because he hears it all the time. But we'll keep that trend going, because Buzi, we had so much fun having you on here again. And if you ever want to be back on here again, man, like respectfully, just let us know.
And I think that, and we're going to have you on again soon when we get rolling. Like right now, we're taking a little bit of time with everything else. Just It's hard to record, but like we'll get you back on because I really do. I think that this is, we've kind of all created this amazing little community. And it's been great. It's been great to watch that happen as all these other podcasts are all just connecting and everybody's like doing so good. And I feel like it's all just beneficial of everybody getting to talk with each other and exploring all these different opinions. Like I love that.
Yeah.
Like, how often do I get to talk to somebody who like lives in the States about wrestling? Like, yeah.
But Buzi, thank you so much. If you want to follow Buzi, you're on Twitter. You're going to have to let everyone know what your handles are because they're really great, but they're very hard to remember.
I know. It's funny. It's like I make myself like hard to find just because I'm like, whatever. I like posting dumb shit. I think my Twitter is Blue Crush 2 fan, I think. And then my Instagram is Night of Living Deadlift, and there's just underscores between each word just to make it a pain in the ass.
And make sure to be there on Wednesdays and on Fridays for all
Wednesdays
the best
and Fridays
content.
are the best times. It will get you revved up for the day.
Yeah. Well, Buzi, you fucked up. You should have smoked that shit because now you're on an episode of Inside the Sequel. But thank you so much for being on, man. And thank you all for listening. If you like this episode, give us a like, give us a follow. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes. We have our website at Inside the Sequel. If you should go back if you missed last week's episode where we talked about Neighbors 2 with Daniel, Steph, and Seth Garrett. And that was an amazing time. Go check that one out. And then if you can't wait, I'm going to let you know. It's already been announced, but we're going to have Chris Bowie from YouTube. He's going to be on to talk about National Treasure 2 to wrap up the month. But thank you all for listening. And remember, if you aren't giving found footage films a chance, do you really care about cinema? Anyway, we'll see you next time.